When Sarah came to my clinic a couple of years ago with her 8-year-old son, Tim, and she had a problem because her son was bedwetting. And that's not a good problem if your child is 8 years old because he wants to go and sleep over. They want to take school trips. So we had to take that issue seriously. But what surprised me more than that was that Sarah was in my clinic again a couple of days later. And this time, she was there with her daughter, Emma, who was 10. So I was surprised. I said, Sarah, you were here, now you're here with Emma, what's going on? And Sarah was really devastated. She said, look, Dr. Easwaran, Emma is losing her hair. And I said, what do you mean she's losing her hair? She goes, well, when I comb her hair, it just comes off and the whole brush is full of hair. And she showed me the head, and this was what we could see. You see, Sarah had a kind of a hole in her head. We call it alopecia areata. And I was surprised. I said, what is going on in your family? Because we know that when you lose hair, it could be some kind of form of stress that causes autoimmune disease. And there was no bacteria involved, nothing else than what we were thinking, actually. And I said to Sarah, what is going on in your home? And she started to cry and to sob. She was completely devastated. She said, Dr. Easwaran, something's terrible's happened. You know, my husband, Philip, has been diagnosed with a brain tumor. And it's been going on for 3 months, and his surgery is scheduled for 2 weeks, and we're just all terribly devastated. And our family's not doing well. So think about this. You have 2 kids at this age, and you have a father who has a diagnosis, a tumor diagnosis, and a mom who's breaking apart. What can be scarier for them than to actually think of losing their parents? And it's sad to say that, yes, thoughts can make us sick. And in this case, it was not a virus or a germ, it was the thoughts, it was the stress that was causing this problem. Well, what can you do about it? Why does this happen? How are we formed, and why is this going on? So that's going to be the topic of our talk today, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And I am a medical doctor with my clinic in Cologne, Germany, and I've been working for over 20 years in medicine. And we got a lot of progress in the medical field. We have wonderful vaccinations that prevent disease. We have medicine that we can prescribe. And we have surgery, diagnostics, and a lot of different forms of therapy. But there is still so much that we don't know about the body, and so much that we don't know about the healing system. And there is so much that you can actually do to influence your health. So thinking about this, I thought, well, if thoughts are formed in the head, it would be interesting to describe how your head is formed. So I said to Sarah, come and sit down. Let me explain to you my method I call the beneficial thinking method. And let me show you the house that you have in your head that you call the beneficial thinking house. So imagine you have a house that you carry on your head. And this house has 3 floors and 5 tenants. So there's a basement, and you can see a crocodile in the basement, and there's a mid-floor, and in the mid-floor you have a lady with her back turned to us, that's Lady Amy, and she has a friend, that's a seahorse, and there's a fairy, and on the top floor there's a scientist. So what do they all do? We're going to start off with the most important part that I think should be discussed first, and that's the ground floor in this house. And you have 3 tenants there, and the most important tenant that you have to remember is this lady, Amy, with a yellow hat. She represents the amygdala that we have in our brain. They're 2 pieces that look like almonds, and her job is to detect danger. So you have a personal bodyguard in your body that is responsible to recognize danger and to save you from danger. So how does Amy know what danger is? Well, She has her detectives, and those are your sensory organs. So your eyes and your ears and your nose and your skin, they were not made to enjoy perfume or caviar or ice cream. They were originally made to remind Amy if there is any danger going on. And what we have discovered also is that what you think actually affects Amy too. So if you think that there's some danger going on, and if you think someone's coming up who might hurt you, well, Amy's going to be aware of that and is going to react. So what does she do? Well, she does something that's quite simple. She presses a button, right? And this button sends an elevator to your cellar where you have that crocodile. So this crocodile, the cellar, represents your brainstem. And what happens is actually that she sends with this elevator that goes down substances like adrenaline and cortisol that form some sort of energy and are like fuel for your crocodile, who senses that the strength and then starts fighting or gives you energy to run away. So it's very important to understand that this is what we call the fight or flight response in our body. And this has been with us for millions of years, and this is what protects us at the end of the day from danger. We sort of abuse it though. And we kind of think about all kinds of different things that are dangerous, that are actually not even dangerous at all. Like, let's say you have a fight with your spouse because the spaghetti was overcooked, right? And that's, Amy doesn't really know that that's danger or not. She just understands that you feel that way, and she just sends down that elevator with all those unnecessary hormones. And what you have to understand, though, and this is the point that I have to make, is these adrenaline, cortisol, all this fuel that you use for your energy, that you use for your crocodile, unfortunately makes you sick, right? They're the main cause of modern stress-induced illnesses in our society. So you can get heart disease from that. Your immune system suffers, and that's what happened to Emma, who lost her hair. And you can have your immune system, your metabolism, you can become obese, or you have problems with your sugar metabolism. You can really get ill from these substances. So if you are stressed a lot, you become sick. And it's interesting to understand that there is something you can do about it. And there's this thing, before Amy presses that button, you have this little space that nature has given you to stop her. You can really tap her on the hand and say, Amy, stop. And how would you do that? So, when you get excited and your heart beats and that maybe you're upset or angry, or you have to run and get the bus, whatever it is that you need energy for, your body calms down again after a couple of days or a couple of hours or minutes. It's because you have a system in your body that excites you, but you also have a system, and it's exciting, it's called sympathetic nervous system, but you have a system also that cools you down, right? You have to understand that. And this system that cools you down has a nerve, and we call it the parasympathetic nervous system, but this special nerve is responsible also for your breathing. So that is why when Amy starts pressing the button, you feel, oh my God, I don't feel good. And in this case, it was Sarah who was so upset with everything. Then Sarah can just take a deep breath. And this deep breath will help her come out of the cellar. Because when you breathe, your whole body calms down. And what happens, you can just touch your pulse. And I'm breathing now because, of course, my Amy's working too because I'm doing this talk. And I just understand, I can just feel the tension getting lower, and I can feel my muscles relaxing, and I can just feel my voice calming down. So it's worth understanding. And a very intelligent neurologist put it this way: between stimulus and response, there is a space. His name is, by the way, Viktor Frankl. And he went on and said, in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So it's a scientific thing that you can do in this moment where you notice that you're going to scream at someone, or you notice that your thoughts are taking you in a very non-beneficial direction, that you can tap Amy on the fingers and say, stop, take a deep breath, and think, and then act. This will support you and help you from getting ill. But there are other things too that you can do. So I said to Sarah, you know what, let me show you other parts of the brain. And I showed her that. The mid part of the brain, we have Amy, and by the way, that little seahorse sitting there is responsible for all the memory, and it's represent the hippocampus. So I said, you know what, remember happy things. You can actually activate your memory center to ask them to do happy memories that you have. That will make you feel good. And this little fairy, something I really love. She's my best tenant in the whole building because she makes us feel good. And people think feeling good is a luxury, but it isn't. It's a responsibility. You are responsible for your happiness, and you can induce it. You can talk to your fairy and say, you know what, I want to be happy. And she does the work. And she likes to do it. So one thing that helps the fairy to understand that you're doing okay is gratitude. So when you say, I'm grateful for something, then she kind of starts making your dopamine and your oxytocin flow. Or if you hug someone and you give this person a warm feeling, what happens actually that she produces some oxytocin and that flows in your brain and you feel comfortable. So these things are quite interesting, and what's even more is that if you're a happy fairy, I said to Sarah, go home and take a look at a nice movie. Sit down with your kids and watch a movie. A funny movie, though. And what happens is that she produces more of that funny stuff that makes you happy called dopamine. So the happy fairy has a responsibility. She calms down Amy. And what she does above all is when you're feeling good, the elevator goes a bit higher to your top floor. And that's where you have your power. That's where your scientist sits and watches and helps you. And if you ask yourself, how did we humans manage to go all the way up to the moon and back? It's because we have the scientists. It's the result of evolution. It's the result of all the years of knowledge that we have. And unfortunately, a lot of us just don't know that it's there and use the scientists so seldom. So how can you activate your scientists? You just tell them what you need. You just say, I'm in trouble. I need to find my way out. Help me. And it kind of organizes the algorithm in your brain, and all your sensory organs kind of form themselves together and look out for the help that you're looking for. So it's worth thinking of. So if we get back to the beginning of everything, when you were born, and like this little boy called Henry or Susie came to my clinic after 4 days, and I look at these kids and I say to myself, they're so friendly, they're so happy, they're so healthy, and they're so without fear. What happens to you, and you look like that, each of you looked just as cute, just as friendly, just as smart as Henry. So what happens is when you grow up, you learn what fear is. You collect fear. And this value of the thought that makes it a fearful thought or a dangerous thought is what you learn by growing up. And I was lucky as a child to grow in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, with an Ethiopian mom who used to drag me to the Ethiopian church on Sundays, and I listened to these singing and chanting. And then I'd go home and my Indian father cooked curry, and the house smelled of curry, and he'd tell me stories about my Chinese great-grandmother, I never met. But I had so many cultures in my life that made me free of all this fear, which helped me actually because the war broke out and I had to leave the country and go to Hungary, a completely different nation with a completely different culture and a completely different language that I had to learn, by the way. And then I started to eat Hungarian goulash and admire that and enjoy that. And I ended up in Germany. And now I speak German, and I do have my trouble with that word der and the die and the das, and I enjoy Wurst, but still, life has been good to me because I have been exposed to so many different things, and I'm so less of fear. So there's one important thing that I would like to make you aware of. When I see all of this and my life, and I think of now that there's one thing I ask you, because my little friends and that I call the little children of this world would like to grow up and in a happy, healthy, and friendly environment. And to do this, they need you grown-ups to change the way you think and to be aware of the thoughts that you have and to understand that your thoughts have an effect on the world they grow up in. So I ask you, in the name of my little friends, in the name of the children of the world, to consider your thoughts, to be aware of them, to understand what Amy does to stop her pressing the button. Please train her. You can do that. Make her tame her crocodile. Understand your fairy. Make your fairy dance. And most of all, please keep your scientist on the top floor busy. Thank you so much.